All right. Yay. So
Hi.
today we are going to welcome my best friend since high school, Crystal Lee. Crystal is the CEO of Crystal Clear Careers, which you will learn a little bit more about in a bit. Just some background information. Crystal and I met back in high school, probably, I think, since freshman year in
Yeah.
Spanish class. And I remember we sat next to each other and we just clicked. We bonded. I remember you would always have good food that you would be snacking in class. And because I love food too. And then we both loved, Spanish and the culture, the language. Everything, the music, everything. So we bonded over that as well. And I remember one time, I think it might have been, was it TLC? I don't know. Someone's music was playing and you started dancing. And I was like, okay, this girl has moves. She can dance. And so I knew you were fun. So anyway, ever since then, we've just been best friends ever since.
Yeah.
Seeing each other grow, go through, different stages of our lives. And so I am very proud of my best friend. And that's why I would like to bring her on today to basically learn more about your business and also just to learn more about how you are balancing having a business and having, I know you've got a 2-year-old daughter, Selene, and family, right? Husband and
Yeah.
family and everything. So just to talk a little bit more about how you're able to manage that,
Yeah.
work-life balance kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Where do you
Crystal,
want me to
the floor
start?
is yours. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, hi, I'm Crystal Lee. I am the CEO behind Crystal Clear Careers LLC. The concept and the mission behind my business is to bring more like transparency to the whole recruiting process. So that way you can make a crystal clear decision for your career, hence the name. And this all kind of started about with the whole, women movement about being behind with, pay equity. And I've come to realize that it's not just helping that disparity, but there's so many disparities that start with just not knowing how to ask
Hmm.
is that you want,
Hmm.
um, and being able to feel like you can ask that of employers. And so what we do for our clients is that we walk them through that process of just thinking about how to prepare for negotiations all the way from the beginning of the job search journey into the part where you're actually actively interviewing and recruiting, and all the way through the process of getting an offer, and at that point just actually being able to work up to asking for what it is that you want. And that's essentially like what we do here at Crystal Clear Careers, and how and why I got into it.
I love it. I love it. And I know you have a background in recruiting as well.
Yes,
Years
yes,
of like HR, recruiting, right? So,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
In college, I worked in HR, so I saw a lot of that um, like background work with bringing people in, and even though it was a lot of paperwork, just being in that environment and just kind of having an understanding of how HR works. And then after I graduated from University of San Francisco with an accounting degree, I went into accounting for several years, and several like 15-year career in accounting while also doing HR stuff for the companies that I worked for,
Yeah.
and just really got an understanding of how recruiting works as well as understanding money.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of times the missing part for the clients that I meet.
Mm.
It's oftentimes not something that is taught in school, like just understanding money, understanding how employers work, understanding the different stages of how people interview or what even happens during an interview.
Mhm.
So, like I have the ability to handhold my clients through every part of that journey.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I love doing what I do.
That is awesome. And so what inspired you to start your business, to start Crystal Clear Careers?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of disparity, and honestly, there was also my own journey of having a hard time asking for things for myself and wanting other people to not go through what I went through, and trying to prevent others from making the same mistakes I did, similar to almost like being a parent, wanting to filter out the things that you don't want your own kids to have to suffer through because you've already done that. You learned a lesson. So you
Mhm.
want to pass it on to them
Yeah.
so that, they can take what you did one step further, and have like maybe like a stronger starting point or a starting point further down the line where they don't have to do as much. And also remembering that just because you're not doing all the suffering that we went through doesn't mean you don't have your own journey of like challenges to get through yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's been the most rewarding part of your journey so far then?
Oh gosh, oftentimes this question comes with like a dollar amount, right?
Okay.
Like what's the biggest, change that I've ever negotiated for a client. And I would say there is that aspect where it's very rewarding. And there, like I would say my biggest claim to fame was helping a client double their package.
Wow.
Like it went from like 350,000 to over 750,000
Nice.
annually. And yes, this person was in tech, and like they do have that ability in tech to like, have those negotiations be that wide of a range. And the caveat I would say there was that, the initial offer was at the wrong level, and we had to actually negotiate leveling up and leveling up and leveling up. So there is that aspect, and that's why that was able to so increase so much.
Hmm.
um, but I would say also, even though that was very rewarding,
Hmm.
some of the most rewarding clients that I've had were the ones that didn't even have an increase,
Hmm.
and for those clients, just the act of asking for what it was that they wanted and taking that step to advocate for themselves, despite the result, was it was still a success.
I love it.
So there are a wide range of clients that come to me. Some who after 20-year career had never asked for a raise, never asked for a promotion, and would get nervous just asking for an extra $1,000.
Hmm.
And then I have the clients who are like, I will negotiate and ask until they tell me, like, best and final, or until I risk losing the offer, and I'm okay if I lose the offer.
Yeah.
So that's the spectrum right there. um yeah, and both can be very, very rewarding spectrums.
I mean,
Sides of the spectrum.
for sure, I can definitely see that because I feel like in a way you're almost like a coach in a way, right? Like you're
Hmm.
coaching them to kind of get out of their comfort zone. And I'm sure after they've gotten over this fear or hurdle to ask for what they want when it comes to the professional setting, I'm sure it'll encourage them to start asking for what they want in all different realms of their lives, right?
Yes, yes. I have a client right now that is a second time client,
Hmm.
and I can already see a huge change. There's just not that stress or that anxiety that came from that first round.
Yeah.
And because we did the work, right? We did the work, we did the exercises to be able to get to that place where we're going, you know what I'm doing is not crazy. Like, why can't I ask for this? Like, I used to get paid this much,
Hmm.
and this job is paying me less or offering less. Why can't I, at the very least, ask for what I was making before? you
Yeah.
know? So, um, and to see that follow up, to be able to like follow up with that client and see that change, it's very rewarding.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
It,
so just out of curiosity, what kind of, when you say when we did the work, what do you mean like we did the work? What kind of work goes on behind the scenes?
Right. So there are steps that we take along the way to essentially build up to that big ask when
Oh,
the offer actually comes, right? So oftentimes like clients, they feel the need to share with the recruiter everything like going, okay, I used to make this much, I used to like, I want to make this much and whatnot. And they get really stuck on just focusing on the base salary.
okay.
And then they're not realizing that they could be worth a lot more, by comparing themselves to, competitors or, other companies that are paying what other companies are paying, like what's in their background in terms of skill set, how much of a need there is from the employer to have this person right away and whatnot. Um, and then so we practice along the way with mock conversations like, okay, this is how a recruiter would ask you questions and you want to answer, but you don't necessarily need to give everything away in that first call. It's like, um, so say for instance, if a recruiter asks you, hey, what was your past salary history, a lot of clients don't actually realize that there are laws now that actually prevent or that are actually supposed to be stopping an employer from asking from your past earnings history.
Mm.
Because really they should pay you what you're worth, not like what they think you would be happy with.
Mhm.
Because sometimes what you're happy with might be well below what
Mhm.
they actually pay.
Mhm.
Um, so, um, so things like that, clients don't necessarily know or realize. Even in having them learn about, the current laws or like, you can answer like this. Those are steps that we're taking towards building a stronger negotiation case for later on when an offer comes. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And for those of you who don't know Crystal yet or who have not worked with Crystal yet, she is very loving, caring. She's got a beautiful, nurturing side of her. So, as you can imagine, someone who's going through this process, this is the type of person you want to work with, right? So that's just my 2 cents there to share about Crystal here. Um,
There is a key
yeah.
that I tell all of my clients right from the beginning when they
Hmm.
work with me, right? I'm going to ask you to do things that might feel slightly uncomfortable or uncomfortable straight up, but
Hmm.
it should never get to the point where you cannot function.
Mm,
And if you feel like you're getting to that point, that's when we have the conversation, because this is not me standing on this side of the negotiation table and trying to drag you over.
mm,
This is me going, okay, like what can I teach you, like
mm,
what maybe like pushes you a bit further, but not necessarily like, having to drag, because I don't want to drag anybody.
mhm.
Um and I also want people to be able to function, but I also realize that like people also need to face a bit of a challenge, and they also feel like when they have that challenge, that's when they're learning something.
Yeah,
And that's when they feel like I'm bringing something of value
yeah,
to the table, to guide them through like learning about that and learning through that challenge,
yeah.
right? So if you ever get to the point where you're not functioning, I'm not doing my job then. My
Mm,
job is to get you to a place where you improve from when you first joined.
mm,
Yeah. And not everyone is going to go from I've never negotiated to being like the most aggressive negotiator in the first round.
mhm,
Like, in fact, almost nobody does that.
mm.
But, with clients, if I could just get them to at least feel comfortable with what they ask for, that is exactly what this process is about.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I loved it.
Yeah.
And so, as a woman business owner, what kind of challenges have you overcome that helped shape
Mm.
your success today?
Well, I will start with starting the business.
Mm,
I launched the business end of August 2023. And that same November, I was pregnant with Selene.
Mm.
So I'm like, oh, okay, and knowing that um, my priority first was, having a family,
Hmm.
then what I did was I set up um, essentially like boundaries for myself
Mm.
and boundaries for the business because I wanted to do the business. And as a matter of fact, I worked till the day before I gave birth. And this is also working while I was hospitalized in the what they call the antepartum unit because I was diagnosed with preeclampsia.
Mm.
For those of you who have gone through the whole pregnancy journey and you know what I'm talking about, then you can probably understand it's like, oh, okay, like this was not like the ideal situation
Mm.
to be in that first year of business.
Mhm.
Um, um, and at the same time, like I needed to have I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because when you become a parent, there is something you need to retain for yourself.
Mm.
And this company is that for me.
Mhm.
Um, so I restricted myself to having no more than 5 clients at a
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And with what I do, sometimes it's very on demand. And clients can be messaging me, as like late as like, 10 in the evening, like 1 in the morning. Whether or not I respond at that time is a different matter. But these messages are coming in. Um, and there are urgent matters to address.
Mhm.
Um, and I always encourage clients, hey, if it's on your mind, type it out, get it to me in our chat. And that way, at least it's not sitting in your mind.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like the act of just typing it out is already enough to relieve like the stress that's happening with whatever they're worried about in that moment. Um, Now, mind you, in order for me to have made that work, like, once Selene was, out and about, I do have a nanny.
Okay.
So oftentimes I try to schedule meetings while the nanny is here so
Mhm.
that someone is watching her. Now,
Yeah.
there have been plenty of times where I was without the nanny and still had to take meetings.
Mhm.
And when I take on clients, I am very upfront. I say, my baby sometimes needs to actually join us in meetings. That or I might have last minute meeting changes because of whatever my daughter needs.
Mhm.
So if you feel uncomfortable about that, you don't have to sign up with me. And and that's okay.
Mhm.
So I'm very upfront about it. And
Yeah.
oftentimes I find clients to be very understanding,
Yeah.
especially most of the time I do tell them that, my baby was born very premature.
Mhm.
And so she does have a lot of appointments.
Mhm.
And to this day, she still has a lot of appointments, but thankfully she's like pretty much all caught up like developmentally and looking like just any other 2 year old. But in the beginning, it was a lot of taking her like an appointment a day, if not sometimes even 2 appointments a day.
Mhm.
But throughout all that, I still had clients on the roster and I still was taking meetings. Like once again, I needed that for my own sense of self.
Mm.
Yeah.
I see. I see. Wow. Kudos to you, Cristal. Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. So, what legacy, last question, what legacy do you hope your business will leave for your loved ones, community, or future generations?
So surprisingly, a lot of my clients were my own family and friends because
Mhm.
during this period, one of the things I forgot to mention in the previous question was that one of my boundaries was I was only taking on family, friends, or word of mouth referrals from people that I already knew.
Mhm.
Um, and the reason why I did that was because I figured that this demographic of people would probably be more understanding of the situation I was in,
Hmm.
um, and that I would be more than happy to help. Just but we would have this arrangement, right?
Hmm.
And being that so many of the clients were like family and friends, I am so thankful that essentially, I helped my own family and friends increase the family wealth,
Aw.
increase the wealth of my friends' families, because when you are able to negotiate your compensation package with your employer, it's not a thing that pays off only one time.
Yeah.
It's exponential
Yeah.
because that means that your launch point for your next role is going to be even higher
Hmm.
than when you didn't ask for anything at all. And so that wealth gets passed on.
Hmm.
And what clients often tell me is that they become more capable of negotiating things and asking for what it is that they want in other aspects of life as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm very proud of that, because oftentimes I'm working with people who like people who probably are more about giving
Hmm.
than receiving,
Mm.
and probably to the point where they're detrimenting themselves,
Mm.
to be able to continue saying yes to somebody else, or like like take a lower salary than somebody else.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you can be that giving person and still make and ask for what it is that you're worth, you
Mm.
know
Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah.
great. I love that.
So that legacy is built in their wealth, and hopefully it like in their change in their approach in life, and hopefully showing other people around them that it is okay, you're not crazy for asking what it is that you need, or and sometimes what it is that you want.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, oftentimes my clients are asking for what they are needing.
Mm.
And that's a huge distinction there.
Mm.
There's the asking for what it is that you want, but then they're having a hard time just getting themselves to ask for what it is that they need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where they come in to work with you to
Mm.
get to that next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Handle
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I
Never
love it.
seen.
I think it's so beautiful, the legacy that Crystal Clear Careers and just are leaving for everyone around you. And hopefully the trickle effect, right?
Exactly.
Affect more people. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Um, we do have a little bit more time, so I'm going to ask you one last question. And
Okay.
because Gift of Love Legal is a trust and estates firm, so I am going to ask, have you thought about what would happen to Crystal Clear Careers if you were suddenly unable to manage it?
So I love that you asked this question because every business owner is always faced with, the question of what's the next step for the business? Like how do you want to change it up? Or maybe, how do you want to protect it, for this next stage? So my answer to you is that I've thought about it for the stage that I'm in right now, which is, oh, if I, especially when I knew that at some point in time I would be hospitalized and need and need to like give birth. I did make arrangements with another like consultant, that could at least guide my existing clients,
Nice.
and be the backup, um, while I was dealing with delivering and being postpartum and whatnot. Um, so I have that arrangement already,
Mhm.
for this stage in the business. What I want to work on next is, you know, um, this is the concept that I saw a lot of, in when I was, a tax manager,
Mhm.
which was like, a partner that wanted out, or, someone who wanted to start their own business and have their own book of business.
Yeah.
And then what happens when they die or they
Mhm.
become like completely incapacitated? And oftentimes I find that, when you're in a firm, that makes it easy. You just, pass it off to like the next in line partner or the next in line person. My brother himself, he's a CPA,
Mm,
and he went ahead and bought a book of business for someone who was retiring,
mhm.
right? So um, I find this to be a very interesting topic for my business in general because my business is a newer concept.
Mm,
Um, so, so for someone to necessarily come in and buy it, buy my book of business from me, I don't think that is necessarily a huge market for that, considering I don't think there's that many um, businesses like mine out there.
mm.
Um, so I would probably have to come to someone like you, June, and go like, what are my options, right?
Yeah.
Because I am in a bit more of a unique situation, and unless someone in my family, takes it over, where a lot of um, families try to do that, right? Like they try to have like their children take over the business or whatnot. I'm not necessarily sure that my business is one of those type of businesses either, right?
Mm.
So yeah, I would definitely want to consult an attorney to go, what can I even do with this? Like, given that this is the situation, the
Mm.
unique situation that I'm in. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And we can definitely chat more about that another time. Uh,
Yeah.
but this is great. Yeah, I love this. So, before we end our interview, learning more about Crystal Lee and Crystal Clear Careers, um, how can people contact you if they wanted to work with you or just learn more about what their options are, to work with you?
Yes, I keep it very simple. You just email me, crystaljlee.work@gmail. So that's CRYSTALJLEE dot WORK at gmail.com. Send me a message. The first meeting, first half-hour meeting is a free consultation. So then you can decide whether or not you would want to take me on for the duration of the rest of your next search.
I love it. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Crystal, for your time and sharing your
Absolutely.
story, everything with us today. We're very happy to have you join us.
Yeah, I am so happy to always work with you, June.
Oh,
And anytime, anytime. And thank you so much for the opportunity to have a chance to tell you more about my business and tell you the network that you have built more about my business.
yes, thank you. And to all watching, hope you all have a wonderful day and we'll connect again soon.
Bye.